Welcome to this special edition of 504 Road Trips. Please excuse the broken windshield. I'm driving my beater today because the poorly maintained surface streets in New Orleans aren't good for low-profile tires. So recently, a viewer, Jeremy WC, posted a photo from 1971 of the I-10 US-90 business junction in New Orleans and remarked how much simpler the junction was back then. Anyone who has ever transferred from US-90 Business East onto I-10 East or vice versa is familiar with this interchange, but in its modern form with the two flyover ramps making the connection more direct. Here we see the US-90 Business East to I-10 East flyover in its natural state with more traffic than it's engineered to handle. This is never fun to drive. Now we're driving back from I-10 West onto US-90 Business West, and the traffic is bumper to bumper. There's absolutely no reason for the traffic to be like this, but people feel the need to drive slowly as they merge with the expressway traffic at the end of the ramp, rather than trying to match the speed of the traffic going through. Also, the split between 90 Business and Claiborne Avenue is a problem because people bypass the line and force their way in at the last second. Some even ride the shoulder to get around the traffic. But your narrator has the age and perhaps the wisdom to know what this was like before the flyovers were open, back around 1988. So we're going to take a ride into the past and see what this was like pre-flyover. We'll start with the old way of getting from 90 Business East to I-10 East. All of that old infrastructure, which dates back to the mid-1960s, is still here with the exception of one ramp, which I'll point out later. The procedure started by taking exit 13B. These exits were only numbered in the last 10 to 15 years, so it was just the Claiborne Avenue exit back then. Now there was the easy way to do this in the right way. The easy way was to jump over the solid white line here to the far left lane and get directly onto I-10. The problem with that is there was often heavy traffic coming through here and getting over was difficult. My dad had a 74 Dodge Dart with a 318 and a Holley carburetor, and it had the typical characteristic of taking some time to think about it when you put your foot to the floor. So I spent my childhood in the backseat of that Dodge doing this the right way. So the next part of the procedure was to continue down Claiborne Avenue as we are now. There's a light at Gravier and another light at Tulane Avenue and another light at Cleveland Avenue. Here's where we take a right turn onto Cleveland Avenue, and we'll take another right onto South Robertson Street. Here at the corner of South Robertson and Tulane, we're forced to turn right, but if we make a hard right, there's a ramp that'll take us up to the elevated I-10. I've cut out all of the time waiting for red lights, but this took several minutes. Even with the crawling traffic on the flyover, it would have been faster. So now we're going to head west on I-10 and get onto US-90 Business the old way. There was also a way to cheat on this one, but that ramp no longer exists, so I can't show you that, but I'll point out the remnants of it in a minute. We take exit 235B to Canal Street in the Superdome. As we make the loop here, there used to be the downtown Roadway Inn on the left, and then as we come out of the loop, a large tall hotel stood on the right between Canal and Cleveland. That was called the Claiborne Tower, among other names over the years, and it was demolished around 2013. So we make a right turn onto Cleveland Avenue, and then at the light another right onto Claiborne Avenue. As we drive up this ramp on the left, you can see supports for a roadway that doesn't exist anymore. This was the left-hand exit that came off of I-10 and took traffic onto South Claiborne heading uptown. You'll see the road widen on the left where that ramp used to connect to the overpass that we're on. Now we have another loop to put us back onto the riverbound expressway with an option to take I-10 west to Baton Rouge. As we come around the loop, there's an on-ramp coming in from the left, and we have a yield sign, but there's never anyone coming up that ramp. Ever. I wonder why. The merge with 90 Business West is an easy one since there's a dedicated lane here. So let's back up and check out that ramp that goes to I-10 West. This ramp brings us to the Julia Street on-ramp onto the lakebound Pontchartrain Expressway. Note the non-working ramp meters. The meters were damaged in Hurricane Ida a few years ago and they just didn't bother to fix them. In this on-ramp's original state, up until around 2011, there was no acceleration lane. It just dumped everyone out into the right lane of the expressway. Now it's been improved, and I use that term loosely, providing exactly 200 feet of acceleration lane. So now we're going to take I-10 East past the US-90 business exit. I've often heard people say that I-10 exits off of itself here, since 90 business gets more lanes than I-10 gets. 90 business is a left-hand exit, but isn't properly marked as such on the overhead sign, and there aren't any exit-only signs over any of the lanes, even though only one lane out of the 4 has an option here. Now we're not going to stay on I-10. There's a Poydras Street Superdome exit numbered 234B and properly marked as a left exit. We'll take that exit because there's a secret way to get back onto the expressway that it seems very few people know about. We jump forward to Girard Street, and we're going to drive through the tunnel at the former New Orleans Center Mall. The mall was mostly above us on the second floor, but on our right is the former drop-off area that led into Macy's department store. On the left is a parking garage which was originally built for the mall. As we come out of the tunnel, the Caesars Superdome is on the right, and you can see the Smoothie King Arena ahead on the left. Years back, I went to a Saints game with a friend who worked for the Bridge Authority, and as we were leaving, he told me to head this way, which was the opposite way that most of the departing traffic was going. This back way onto the riverbound expressway was previously unknown to me, and judging by the few cars that were going this way, not a lot of others knew about it either. Remember that mystery on-ramp I mentioned a few minutes ago? This is it, and it puts us right onto the expressway without even having to merge. So now we've covered most of the possible paths through this interchange, the interesting ones at least. We'll conclude the video here. Thanks for watching. We've enabled channel memberships, so for as little as $1 a month, you too can help support our channel and get early access to our regular videos as well as the occasional members-only video. Click the link in the description to join. If you like this video, please give us a thumbs up, post a comment, subscribe, share and follow us on social media, and join us for our next 504 road trip.